Hi, this is Adam, and I've been taking wood fire ceramics for this year's immersion. We started off with the basics, such as like learning about the concepts of different types of clay, glazing techniques, engraving techniques, forming, and like the concepts of how to make a functional pot. And we also did wheel throwing, which is essentially slamming a huge piece of clay on a turning table and making a cylindrical part out of it. And this is like the picture of what we have been making. We made the entire shelf of it, and the following days we toured in some artists' houses and a clay shop and a factory in which manufactures all the clay related stuff, like ceramics related stuff. And we also learned about the history that is related. And after all that, like creating the bisque wheel, which is like clay before firing, we fired those in a wood-fired kiln. As the name implies, it's a kiln that uses wood to fire these pots that we have been making. And the first time firing, we did not quite reach temperature. So basically, we measure temperature as in cone. These cones are specifically engineered clay pieces that are designed to melt at different temperatures. And cone 10 is essentially a cone that's supposed to melt at around 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And we did not quite reach temperature, which resulted in some of the pieces not quite coming out the way we have expected it to. And the glazes are kind of random. There's a random nature to it. When you play with ceramics, you never expect to have a clear prediction of what's gonna come out of the kiln. So there's always that kind of randomness inside of it. And there is also a costume of making a kiln god, in which is like a god-like shape that's got like some kind of supernaturalness into it, in which it's an interesting tradition, at least in my understanding. And when we did the firing, it was extremely cold outside. It was snowing all over the place, but yeah, we like worked in and out for entire day, more than 10 hours. It was quite an experience, very nice, and it also takes a very large amount of effort to like to build up the kiln as we progress essentially. And of course we're super happy after we see all the pieces came out. And not all of them are as good as expected, but still it's more about the progress, of course. And here is all our pieces after hard work, which is very nice. Oh, some other stuff. And after that, we just went to some museums. Okay, so here are some of the stuffs I've been like thinking about and some deeper understanding, I would say. Okay, two parts. One is wheel throwing. From what I've learned, wheel throwing is supposed to be like kind of meditative process, because you have to really engage and concentrate on what you're working on, the clay piece that's on the table. If you're distracted, it's just really hard to fix. As a clay part, the pot, the cylinder is turning. If it goes off-centered, yes, you can make it re-center again, but that's a lot more difficult, and it's gonna end up as a weak point in the wall, and it might break and crack in the firing process. So, yeah, I kind of understand that and experience that a little bit, but not quite as much as I have in another way of explaining it, like a personal parallel, I would say. I would describe myself as a electronic enthusiast. In fact, I'm still surrounded by all kind of powered electronic stuff right now. Yeah, and for a very long time I thought just my interest is my hobby, it's something to be proud of, and it's really nice to make projects out of these. So I kind of look at electronic engineering, or like DIY as a whole, as simply a hobby, as something that's me, that's my identity, that's something I would really want, that's a part of me. However, after the ceramics immersion, it kind of changed. Um, so this is like the concept of escapism, in which is also told in many Ghibli films, which I found interesting. Usually when people think about escapism, it's just bad, it should be denied. But I found a different quality to it. I think it could be necessary. It's a way of learning about myself. Um, I don't know. It's like at the third person's view because it's extremely hard to do psychotherapy on oneself. And yeah, it might not sound very related, but here we are. Um, so here is a quote from Fred Rogers in which I've put on my artist statement. He said, the piano, essentially, is not like just an instrument for it to play. However, it's a place, a country for escapism. When you're there, you're fully engaged, you can escape from the reality. That might sound weird, but that's it. While I'm working on electronics, I almost feel like this is something I'm simply good at, so there's no competition, no shame, no terror of failing, no competition. It's just progress, and whatever progress that may be can be justified to be worthy, and it gives me a sense of accomplishment. Uh, Working with clay and making ceramic pots has kind of been a similar experience to me. I would totally not describe myself to be artistic, but the ceramics immersion has been more pleasing than I've expected. Just making stuff, producing objects itself is rewarding enough for me to say it's something worthy and regardless of the outcome, I would say. Yeah, that's kind of it. In addition, just some details about the immersion. Some of the glazes has not came out the way I wanted. There's one that's called oxblood. It's just chemical, of course. It's supposed to be a transparent-ish, brownish color, but all of my pots that have been using that glaze have came out white, like flaky white. And another one that's purple hazing, which should be purple, and it's like dotted, that's got a really nice form and texture to it. I don't know. It also didn't came out. It's mainly just yellowish white. But still, yeah, after everything has been finished, like one day I'm gonna forget that it's even purple haze or oxblood on these pieces, and they're just gonna be the way they are. And I think these photos are really important memories, I think. Thanks.